Chuck Todd is not doing Meet the Press anymore. Maybe that is why he can be a bit more frank in his analysis. I mean, here he points out something that I think should be pointed out over and over and over again. Trump has given the impression that under his presidency before COVID, that things were so great. The truth of the matter, he inherited a fairly good economy, and he did nothing to really make it better for the working class, the middle class, the poor. One of his first acts, of course, was to give a humongous tax cut, unpaid for, budget busting tax cut to a whole bunch of wealthy people. In fact, at a restaurant, somebody was at one of the restaurants where all the rich folks go to, I guess it was in New York, and he looked at one of his rich buddies and said, "Hey man, you're gonna like your pocketbook going forward. You're gonna like what I'm doing," because in effect, he was taking care of whom? His class, the people that work little and make the most. That's what he did. That's what he did when he was in office. He used to talk a whole lot about every week or anytime he got into trouble. Infrastructure bill. This is gonna be infrastructure week. Did he get an infrastructure bill? No. And remember, the first 2 years of the Trump presidency, he had the Senate, he had the House, and of course, he was the president. Why didn't he get an infrastructure bill? He could have gotten an infrastructure bill. Did he solve the immigration problem? No, he did not. He never solved the immigration problem. He had all three. All three branches belong to his party. But no, the one thing he tried to do later on is a whole lot of draconian executive orders that just wouldn't pass muster with the courts. Why? Because they were draconian and inhumane. So let's be clear here. This fallacy of a Trump successful presidency pre-COVID is just that, a fallacy, an imagination, and a recreation of history. And what Chuck is saying is, hey guys, Biden has the responsibility of re-educating people on what a Trump presidency was. Check out how he said it, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Here's the argument on the other side of the whole, he needs to make this about issues, Chuck. I mean, I'm looking at our most recent NBC News poll. He is way behind on the economy, crime, border, our standing in the world. So how do you make this a winning issues election?
Well, I think what you have to do is there needs to be a couple things. I do think he has to come up with an aspirational agenda of some sort. I think one of the problems that Biden has with this group of voters who are negative on him right now, but don't like Trump either, is, and I've actually had conversations with these voters going, look, I don't want to go back to Trump. That was crazy, but I don't want another 4 years. I didn't love this 4 years, right? It's sort of like you're saying, hey, all right, do we get another mediocre 4 years or do we get another horrible 4 years? He can't make that seem like it's the choice, right? He's got to do Barack Obama. It turned out he was wrong, but one of the ways he tried to beat back to sort of message to the moody moderates, I call them, is to say, hey, if I win again, the fever's going to break and we're going to be able to get something done. It turned out that wasn't true. The fever didn't break after he won re-election. But but they made an attempt in year one to break it, right? We got close with the immigration deal and all of those things. I think he's got to get at that issue, right? There's a whole bunch of depressed people in the middle that don't like the dysfunction and thought, well, maybe new leadership would do the dysfunction. Here's another thing I think that the Biden campaign has to do. They got to re-educate the public at the first 3 years of the Trump term. I think COVID was so traumatizing to the public that we have forgotten how chaotic and frankly unimpressive Trump was as president, including the fact that the first 2 years he had total political control of the government and he couldn't get anything done. And I think Biden probably has to re-educate the public to remind them that Trump's presidency was not just not a success, it was a failure because he got in his own way. He could have had success. He could have solved the immigration problem. He refused to take the deal. He could have had infrastructure. He refused to take the deal. He could have had these things. He refused to take the deal. I think that's how you connect it to policy.
So So yes, again, it's a re-education process. It's the process of reminding America that nothing got done under Trump and quite a bit got done under Biden. Is inflation higher than one would expect? Yes. Are prices still high? Yeah. The other re-education that has to go on is as follows. People think that, okay, we've because we hadn't had inflation in so long, we don't realize that prices go up. And except for the volatile prices, food and energy, which can fluctuate in wide ranges, generally speaking, prices in the aggregate doesn't drop because of something called it would be deflationary. So what happens is prices go up, wages go ahead and meet those prices. And what you want is your wages to exceed those price increases, which then in effect shows a real growing economy. And when we say growing, we're not necessarily talking about the absolute growth that capitalists want. What we mean is that people are doing better than before, etc. That's another long economic story, but in effect, that is what we want. Biden has started to provide that to bend, as Obama would say. It's very hard to turn that juggernaut. That we are a juggernaut, and making that turn is very difficult. Biden, with the help of progressives in Congress, has started doing that, but it takes some time. The last thing that we would want is to bring somebody like a Trump into office who has no clue of an economy, but does have a clue of how to pilfer to give to his class.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel. And number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.